The sun was out at the start of stage 18 of the Giro D'Italia, beginning in Morbegno for the first time in 14 years. A home day for Davide Piganzoli, smiles upon the faces of riders who knew that this Grand Tour was close to the end. Richard Carapaz celebrating his birthday, Lorenzo Fortunato celebrating almost having been the king of the mountain of the Giro. There's a bit to do to confirm that, but on this day it was either one for the sprinters or the breakaway. An easy start, well, should have been on the flat land, a bit of hill in the middle, and a flat finish with 2 laps of a circuit around the town of Cesano Maderno, the first time ever that the Giro d'Italia would visit for a stage finish. Not too long in distance either. Just under 150 kilometres for stage 18. As soon as the flag was waved, the action was on. Most riders in the peloton knew that this was their last realistic chance to get something out of it. And when certain teams who you would imagine normally would want to sprint started attacking, the break, you imagine, was going to get a good chance. But what would the break look like? Mars Pedersen was attacking, trying to cement the Maglia Ciclamino. An early move with Felix Engelhardt was joined by other riders. And at the back, Juan Ayuso was struggling, having been stung by a bee the day before. 20-odd riders got away, but more were coming to join. Catania was in the break, most teams represented along the shores of Lake Como before they started to climb. 40 seconds and it was a big gap to cross. A couple of riders tried to get there. Not all of them would make it. The pace was on at the start of the first climb. UAE Emirates were setting a pace to try and deter more attacks. However, out the back and soon getting into the car was their designated leader at the start of the race, Juan Ayuso. Knee injury last week, bad form, not feeling right, and that bee sting really making a mess. His right eye was almost closed. It was an effort to start, but he would not be able to finish. So they were down to 6 riders to control for the Maglia Rosa. Mostly that was a decent job well done. The break around 40 riders, getting a gap of almost 2 minutes with 100 Ks to go. Pedersen, of course, was in it, and yet again he was going for intermediate sprints against Dries de Bont. De Bont leading the intermediate sprint classification, Pedersen well in charge in the points jersey. No surprise to see ex-DS Astana's Scaroni taking points in the King of the Mountains. He's second to his teammate in that competition. But with the gap at 5 minutes and growing, this was definitely one for the breakaway. More intermediate sprint points to Pedersen. That before the games proper began. Certain teams continue to try and control with 7 minutes of a gap growing towards 8. 66 Ks to go, more mountain points for Scaroni. Then the Red Bull kilometre is where it all kicked off properly. Tarozzi taking the points in the lead in that classification, going away with his teammate Marcelluzzi and Rémi Rochat. They managed to get just over half a minute of a gap. The gap to the peloton was over 10 minutes. Tarozzi continuing as Marcelluzzi and Rochat were brought back. 40 kilometres to go, and they were still playing about at the front. Teams such as De Koning had as many as 4 riders there. The gap was so big behind that the organisation was worried about the peloton being lapped. So invited to the race, Q36.5 rode, and at the front the attacks continued. A group of 11 riders went away, just over 30 Ks to go. And in the click of a finger almost, it was done. Groves in the group, that didn't matter. Same with Wout van Aert. It would be other riders up the road who would go for this stage. 2 full laps of a finishing circuit, a gap of 1:24 to the rest of the chasers. And with 17 kilometres to go, more attacks coming. Nico Denz trying. And he'd get a very good gap. He'd gone on a couple of tight turns, accelerating as he saw a small gap. Planker initially tried to chase, and behind, with 10 kilometres to go and 1 lap, that was that. Or at least they thought. There was time for another couple of attacks to try and get across, but the gap at over half a minute was difficult. And Dents, who was a previous two-time winner of Giro stages, was riding away. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe dealt with the news that Primož Roglic had had to go home 2 days before this. Pellizzari was saving their GC, moving up from 18th to 9th and to 7th. More to come there maybe, but a stage win to come as Nico Dents crossed the line. 3 Giro stages in his career, this one saving it for his team. Delight for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, a superb solo win from the 31-year-old German. Mirko Maestri won the sprint for second behind. And the rest of the bunch were also sprinting for places. Pluimers getting there quicker than the rest. In the peloton, it was wait until the mountains. Isaac del Toro leading the Giro d'Italia. 2 mountain stages to defend. This one was for the breakaway boys, and it was won by Nico Dents. A solid win for the German, who's making a speciality out of winning Giro stages. A lovely moment on the podium. He won again in the land of his grandfather's birth. The general classification unchanged at the top. There's less than a minute still between the top 3 riders. That's all to play out in the next 2 days in the mountains. So a 10th day in the Maglia Rosa for Isaac del Toro. The big question is, can he hang on? Looking better 24 hours before this. The next test is a different one. Longer, higher mountains. And they come back to back. Starting in Biella and going all the way to Champoluc in the Val d'Aosta. 3 first category climbs, a second cat and a third cat. A mighty mountain stage awaiting. That takes place in the far northwest of Italy. It's just over 160 kilometres, stage 19, and you can join us on TNT Sports in the UK, Discovery Plus, and if you're watching in the USA, on Max.